Shell Cordovan is one of the most fabled leathers in the traditional welded footwear space. It's one that many have strong feelings about, positively and negatively. One of the characteristics that those hone in on is its durability. Is it really meant to last, and is it really as strong as everybody claims? Well, here's a perfect example I'd love to share, which is a Florsheim Imperial from 1963. So this is over 61 years old, and I want to share the restoration process. I'll cover a brief introduction to Shell Cordovan, Florsheim, the care tools needed to keep leather looking its best for the longest, and of course, the process I use to clean, condition, and revitalize this pair of shoes. Let's rewind a bit. What is Shell Cordovan? Shell Cordovan's a vegetable tanned leather from the shell membrane of a horse butt. Let's imagine this is a horse butt, which we don't have to imagine too much because it is. If we look right here, this is made of horse butt leather. So this and this is the same thing. Now, when you look on the inside of this, you don't see this, which is the shell. So how do they get something like this that doesn't have the shell to something like this? What they're doing is actually shaving down the suede side or the flesh side of the hide or of the skin, and that reveals this shell membrane or the muscle membrane that's in between the skin and the flesh side, which is known as the Shell Cordovan leather. Now, who is Florsheim? So Florsheim Shoes is one of the most storied shoemakers in the United States, founded in 1892 in a small factory in Chicago, Illinois. Within the last 20 to 30 years, they moved that operation overseas, and kind of progressively from early 80s on, the reputation as well as the quality kind of degraded, unfortunately. That said, this pair of shoes, which is from 1963, is a fantastic specimen of what Florsheim is really celebrated and known for. Let's do a quick evaluation, just how the leather looks before we get started. I want to start with this really deep scratch on the right toe cap. It looks like a cat's paw just kind of got on that toe cap, and one of those claws kind of got all the way through the leather. I wouldn't say this is a crack, more so just like a cut, and I think we'll be able to take care of that. The other main things I want to call out is, even though it looks very rich and vibrant, this is really the wax and the polish on top of the leather. It's not so much the leather itself. We'll be able to evaluate that more after we clean it all off. You'll notice there's significant rolls and rippling on the vamp, which is perfectly normal and expected, but you definitely want to get in there with a tool like this, and we will, to smooth that out and make sure that you're really kind of pushing some of those nutrients back into the highest stress areas of the leather. It's overall in really good condition, much better condition than I expected, and you can see like the unboxing right over here if you want to take a look at that. As you can see, I started with the acetone. It really took about an hour of repeating this cleaning process to make sure that I got all of the finish and waxes off. One of the things that you want to do is definitely take your time when cleaning a pair of shoes like this, because sometimes it's hard to see whether or not you've gotten it all off. So the easiest thing to do is go over the entire shoe, let it rest, and let your eyes rest, kind of step away from it, come back, brush it, look at it again, and you'll be able to evaluate whether or not you got all of that old gunk off the leather. The next step after that is always brushing. Whenever you do something with Shell Cordovan, the most important thing to follow it with is brushing. That's because the way that Shell Cordovan is going through this vegetable tan process, it's just kind of stuffed with a lot of nutrients, waxes, fats, oils, all of that kind of stuff. And the best thing that a leather like this can get is kind of agitating it so that those waxes heat up and kind of disperse themselves amongst the leather. Let's talk about what's important when taking care of Shell Cordovan. I want to focus in on a good conditioner, because that's going to be vital to actually restore this pair of shoes. The characteristics I would look for in a good conditioner or cream polish is one that has a very smooth application that kind of gets fully absorbed into the leather. The full absorption, making sure that there's no surface residue left when using this, making sure that there's no impact to the actual color of the Shell Cordovan, so it's going to rehydrate it, but it's not going to completely change or shift the shade of Shell Cordovan that you're caring for, and it has a very above average drying time. Once you apply this, whether you use your finger or a cotton cloth, it's going to take, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, all depending on how, dry the Shell Cordovan is and how much you apply. Definitely less is more, but those drying times can obviously vary depending on the climate and the environment that you're in. I do want to be fully transparent that restoring this pair of shoes is part of the testing and, proof of concept of this brand new product from Pure Polish Products that is coming out in the next day. This is their new shell Cordovan cream. They've never had a shell Cordovan specific product until now. And I spent the last, 1 to 2 years kind of refining and developing exactly what a shell Cordovan conditioner or cream should be with Andy from Pure Polish. This is 100% a Pure Polish product, and I do not own any part of it. From a standpoint of just how effective it is, we've spent years developing this, testing 30, 40 different iterations of it, sending it out to various members of the community for feedback, and really honing in on those characteristics that I talked about earlier. The full absorption, no impact to the actual color. It's a above average drying time. Now that we've got everything cleaned off, this is where the shell Cordovan cream comes into play. When we do the conditioning, you can always apply it with your fingertip, or you can use just a cotton cloth or a t-shirt. One thing that I would definitely recommend is less is more. You definitely want to, make sure that you're starting with a very minimal amount. You can obviously use any product that you would like, but honestly, this is just something I truly believe in. I'll have a podcast coming out later this week with Andy, and we talk about all that and why this is much different than anything else that's available today. After this conditioning step, you're really going to notice the leather is going to have a bit more of a bounce and a boldness in its color and just how supple it feels. Now that the leather is fully hydrated and conditioned, I'm going over and polishing all the scuffs and scratches with my ebony stick. You can see a lot of these deep scuffs and scratches on the toe. This is a perfect time to use the ebony stick. While I've only been doing this for 2 or 3 minutes, it's not perfect, but you can definitely see a significant difference from where it started to where it is now, and only maybe another 5 or 10 minutes, and this will be perfectly smooth. From a perspective of kind of rejuvenating the color or adding some color back in, I really didn't do anything to it. I just rehydrated it, and it really brought a lot of that life back. One thing you can do during the finishing process, if you want to accent or just kind of draw a little bit more attention to the toe or the heel, you can use, pigmented paste polish, and that'll really kind of add more of a creative look or a stylistic look. Not something that you have to do, but just being honest, a neutral shell Cordovan cream or a pigmented shell Cordovan cream, it's gonna kind of have the same results, especially when working on a leather that's over 60 years old. Now, as we're coming up to the final steps here, what I used for the welt and the edge is this tool from Paul Brungard. This is just a piece of wood in a very particular shape, and as you go around like this, much like using the ebony stick on the shell to polish and smooth that out, that's exactly what this is doing. It's just shaped, in an optimal way to make this as easy as possible. So you can see I went around the entire welt to smooth and polish that up, and added a little bit of black paste or wax to kind of help even out the color. I really preferred this look, and I think they turned out fantastic. This has a much more, holistic look. The color, the overall balance of everything is very even, whereas, with the heavy amounts of finish and wax and polish and all that gunk that's built up over the years, it's a bit more, it's a bit less natural. So I really think this looks fantastic, and you can really see right into the actual leather. You can kind of have that transparent feel, and I absolutely love it. Just to recap, you want to clean off the leather, strip off any of that surface gunk and old wax and polish. We're going to hydrate it. Then after it's hydrated and reconditioned with something like this, you're going to let that sit for 15, 20 minutes or even longer, however long you feel comfortable, and then brush, brush, brush. The next steps are kind of up to you, but what we did was add some paste polish to the toe and heel, use a polishing tool like this on the welt just to smooth that out and kind of give everything a polished look, and then also use the ebony stick to really help polish and give this shell Cordovan a look similar to what you get from Horween, which is a glazed shell Cordovan, and this really does a fantastic job at that. If you want to pick up this shell Cordovan cream from Pure Polish Products, check out the link in the description. I do get a small portion of sales, but I think this product speaks for itself. Let me know what questions or thoughts you have about restoring a pair of shoes like this, and I really appreciate those that have stuck around this long, and I'll see y'all soon. Thanks.